we are about to get images of 3I Atlas that are the best resolution ever, simply because it comes so close to Mars.
There are secrets the world isn't ready to face. Truths so vast that silence becomes the only responsible response. According to physicists like Michio Kaku, we may be living through one of those discoveries right now. The object known as 3I Atlas is not what it appears to be. After its close encounter with Mars, a wave of deliberate silence swept across every major space agency on Earth.
Well, these are really rare so far. It's only the third one ever. There's, 1.5 million known asteroids, and there's about 35,000 near-Earth objects.
NASA went quiet. The European Space Agency locked down its data. And China, once eager to showcase every triumph, suddenly refused to release even a single frame. Something happened out there. Something our instruments recorded, but our institutions aren't yet ready to explain. But the thing nobody tells you is that China's silence is the real clue. They had the best vantage point, the most advanced optics, and first access to the data. Their refusal to release even a single pixel reveals something unsettling. They saw what the rest of the world wasn't ready for. Now, every agency is scrambling to decide how to tell us what they actually found, and what all of them are still hiding. Within mere days of 3I Atlas's close pass by Mars, the most powerful signal from our solar system wasn't a radio wave, a data stream, or a chemical trace. It was silence. Dense, deliberate, absolute silence. This wasn't the routine quiet that follows instrument recalibration. It looked like a synchronized communication blackout, triggered across every major spacefaring nation on Earth. NASA had an excuse ready. They blamed a government funding freeze that supposedly paralyzed public channels right as history unfolded. The European Space Agency claimed their Mars data was still in processing. But China, that's where the silence turns deafening. Their Tianwen-1 orbiter, which has openly shared over 14,000 Martian photos since 2021, suddenly went completely dark. No statements, no images, not even a placeholder note. In an age of instant data and non-stop live streams, that total absence became the loudest signal of all. Under normal circumstances, this moment would have triggered a global celebration. Look at the lineup waiting to observe. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter with its high-rise camera, capable of resolving details smaller than a car tire from orbit. Europe's Mars Express, the UAE's Hope Probe, and China's Tianwen-1 perfectly aligned for the event. Together, they form an observation network so precise it won't happen again for centuries. By every precedent, the flood of data should have been unstoppable. Instead, humanity's most connected array of instruments produced nothing, a void as measurable as the space between galaxies. So what actually happened? A U.S. funding crisis might explain a press delay, but not global silence. The spacecraft kept running. The servers kept logging data. What stops is the public show, the theater of science that keeps citizens watching. This time, even the understudies refused to perform. Europe, independent of Washington's bureaucracy, went mute. China, famous for turning every technical victory into a geopolitical headline, stayed silent too. Tianwen-1 isn't just an orbiter. It's a statement of national prestige. Normally, when American systems stall, Beijing steps into spotlight its own triumphs. Not this time. The silence is worldwide. That, as physicist Michio Kaku might say, is not behavior, it's coordination. What force could compel such different nations to act in perfect unison? The answer, many suspect, lies in the object itself. Because 3I Atlas isn't a normal comet. Long before its Martian flyby, it had already defied almost every rule in the cosmic playbook. Start with its chemistry, a carbon dioxide-to-water ratio of roughly 8:1. The kind of molecular signature expected in newborn systems far from our sun, not in old, intersolar debris. Then there's its light fingerprint, strong nickel emissions without iron, an impossible combination according to our models of stellar fusion. It's like finding a machine built entirely of pistons, but missing the frame that holds them together. It shouldn't exist, and yet there it is. And the physics? Even stranger, despite its bright gas envelope, the object's path shows no hint of the small wobbles caused by outgassing. Those uneven jets that push every ordinary comet off course like a soda bottle venting in space. 3I Atlas moves with surgical precision, following gravity's map almost mathematically, as if its jets are perfectly balanced. Or maybe its mass is far greater than its brightness suggests. Either way, something doesn't add up. The world's best instruments watched it. The perfect geometry aligned. The event played out, and then silence. For scientists, that void is more alarming than any explosion of data, because it means what they found doesn't fit inside the equations we trust. The real story may not be about what the telescopes saw, but about what they agreed not to show. And if those mass calculations are correct, placing it potentially hundreds of times heavier than its visible brightness suggests, then 3I Atlas belongs to a category we've never seen before. Its pathway alone is extraordinary, cutting through the solar system with surgical precision, passing improbably close to Venus, then Mars, and finally Jupiter. The statistical probability of such a cosmic grand tour has been estimated at less than 1%. It's like a traveler visiting every world-famous landmark in one seamless journey by random chance. When you combine all of these odds-defying details, it's easy to understand why leading researchers have quietly begun using one word again and again: anomalous. Even its light behavior is strange, scattering in ways that break the optical laws followed by every other comet ever studied. The usual playbook doesn't fit here, because this isn't playing by the usual rules. As the mysteries mounted, several research teams did what science demands. They checked the math. They ran simulations, cross-compared chemical models, and tested natural versus artificial hypotheses. What they found were probability ratios so extreme they couldn't simply dismiss them as noise. No serious scientist rushes to shout alien technology. Professional restraint is the cornerstone of credibility. But mathematics doesn't have a reputation to protect. It just calculates. When you multiply 7 statistically independent oddities, the odds of this being a purely natural object shrink to nearly zero. And that mathematical whisper leads right back to the most deafening sound in modern astronomy: the silence. The coordinated quiet from the world's space agencies isn't necessarily a cover-up in the conspiratorial sense. It's far more structured, rooted in institutional protocol. Because contrary to popular imagination, space agencies do have contingency frameworks for extraordinary discoveries. They've existed in draft form for decades, drawn up by level-headed scientists and policy architects. The goal isn't to suppress truth, it's to prevent global chaos. Those frameworks, known informally as post-detection protocols, operate on simple principles. First, verify the observation independently. Second, replicate it using separate instruments. Third, coordinate communication internationally before anyone goes public. No single nation is allowed to make a unilateral announcement without cross-verification from multiple sources. Once verified, the stakeholders agree on phrasing, timing, and tone. Information is released simultaneously across all agencies, or not released at all. The purpose is simple: to protect global stability and ensure that the discovery, whatever it is, belongs to everyone. This explains the silence more elegantly than any spy novel ever could. Think about it. If Tianwen-1 had captured nothing more than a dusty, harmless fragment drifting past Mars, China would have celebrated instantly. It would have been a perfect public relations victory, a display of scientific prowess and technological dominance, while NASA was stalled by funding disputes. The fact that no such release occurred suggests not indecision, but precision. A deliberate choice to comply with a global code of caution. A choice that implies the discovery was anything but routine. At that level, decisions leave the laboratory and enter diplomatic conference rooms. The astronomers aren't panicking, but the policymakers are, because they have only one chance to choreograph humanity's first message about something that could rewrite what it means to be human. That's why, across nations, across rivalries, the silence feels almost sacred. So what kind of observation could justify such an extraordinary pause? A blurry dot wouldn't do it. A faint reflection wouldn't either. But a geometric structure with perfect right angles absolutely would. A rotation pattern defying known physics would. A controlled trajectory adjustment, measurable and deliberate, would stop the world cold. The fear isn't rooted in the object itself. It's in the risk of misidentifying it. A false claim could destabilize economies, religions, and institutions overnight. When discovery threatens civilization's narrative, silence becomes the most responsible response. Because this silence isn't emptiness, it's a shield. It protects against premature hysteria and reputational collapse until the data are unassailable. But what exactly are they shielding us from seeing? A picture worth not 1,000 words, but 1,000 secrets. And while scientists insist on intellectual discipline, it's almost impossible not to wonder what kind of image could trigger a planetary lockdown of information. This isn't about ambiguity. A faint, overexposed streak wouldn't summon an intergovernmental freeze. Ambiguous noise leads to academic debates, quiet conferences, maybe a paper or two. It doesn't halt the global data stream. No, this kind of collective stillness is reserved for clarity, the kind that leaves no wiggle room. Data that erases doubt. Data that forces humanity to look directly at something it has never seen before. Imagine this. A frame captured by an orbital camera showing a surface etched with mathematical symmetry. Repeating geometric forms, aligned right angles, metallic reflections catching Martian light in ways no random rock formation could replicate. Or a thermal image detecting a localized, sustained heat source with no geological explanation. That's the kind of data that would send thousands of classified emails marked draft only and do not forward. That's the kind of reading that would have lab directors dialing international partners at midnight, their voices low, their words careful, their disbelief mutual. Not because they're hiding visitors from another world, but because they can't yet prove they aren't. Before humanity's most astonishing claim can be made, it must survive every test, every replication, every skeptic. Until then, silence isn't denial, it's discipline. The thing nobody tells you, the truth that hides behind the phrase, no comment, is that this isn't about concealing aliens. It's about confirming reality without destroying it. It's not about hiding the truth. It's about managing the revelation. It's that sudden, cold realization that the framework of human existence has shifted, and the agency tasked with explaining it will also be responsible for the morning after. Could there be a simpler explanation? Of course. Skepticism remains our sharpest tool. Maybe the ultra-sensitive cameras, optimized for the slow, steady landscapes of Mars, simply couldn't handle the parallax and angular velocity of a faint, fast-moving target against deep space. Perhaps the data teams are still painstakingly separating genuine image streaks from the constant rain of cosmic ray strikes that pepper every long exposure frame. But these rational excuses begin to fracture under scrutiny. 5 completely independent, competing engineering teams, NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, and CNSA among them, don't all trip over the same obscure technical glitch within the same narrow observation window. These are billion-dollar flagship missions, redundant and robust, engineered precisely to capture the unexpected. And even if every one of them somehow stumbled, embarrassment never breeds total silence. Historically, it produces damage control posts, technical memos, and promises of software patches, not a synchronized blackout. This deliberate stillness, stretching from Washington through Paris, Moscow, and Beijing, feels different. It feels intentional. It feels like the pause before a statement, not the echo of failure. And silence, no matter how carefully managed, cannot erase the immense ground-based record that already exists. The anomaly was tracked long before it brushed past Mars. The strange chemical ratios, the spectra that refuse classification, the improbable trajectory that threaded so close to the red planet. All of it sits archived in open databases, immutable and public. That was the smoke. The flyby was the first glimpse of the fire. What this silence can do, however, is buy time. It allows for rigorous cross-verification, ensuring that one nation's eyes saw precisely what the others did. It grants breathing room for the painful construction of a single, unified story instead of 5 contradictory ones that could ignite chaos. Such coordination doesn't guarantee the story's accuracy, but it can make the truth survivable. The goal isn't deceit. It's inoculation against a shock that could fracture economies, religions, and collective trust overnight. Meanwhile, the object itself continues its passage with regal indifference to human anxiety. It is an actor beyond persuasion, a reminder that the universe doesn't wait for our comprehension. Now receding from Mars, it's a dimming ember against the void, coasting sunward. By December, it will cross Earth's orbital neighborhood. It poses no danger, maintaining a comfortable gulf of millions of miles. But it will drift close enough for our most powerful instruments, from Hubble and Webb to the terrestrial giants in Chile and Hawaii, to capture whatever revelations it chooses to reveal. People often ask thinkers like Michio Kaku whether this could be the transformative moment humanity has imagined for generations. Is this that instant when the night sky stops being a silent backdrop and instead becomes a mirror reflecting organized intelligence back at us? His answer remains the same measured refrain. Knowledge arrives only at the speed of peer-reviewed verification. The universe, he reminds us, has never cared for our deadlines. It unfolds on its own schedule, indifferent to our curiosity. If the combined spacecraft data ultimately prove mundane, if it's just a jagged rock with odd chemistry, a comet suffering from eccentric outgassing, or the byproduct of a miscalibrated sensor, then this global hush will fade into a forgotten footnote, a cautionary tale of human overreaction. But if even a fragment of the extraordinary evidence holds, it will mark the moment when our species was quietly tested. 3i Atlas forced the world's rivals to act as one. Was that coordination the rehearsal for something greater? Was this the test? And if so, did we pass? For now, the silence holds, suspended like a breath shared across continents. Instruments still whisper, algorithms still sift, but the official channels stay mute. Somewhere behind closed doors, cautious minds are shaping the story of what we might have just met. Whether that narrative emerges as a scientific correction or a civilizational turning point depends on what the next transmission reveals. Until then, we remain in the longest pause in modern history, a collective moment between ignorance and understanding. And as that faint traveler continues its indifferent journey, the question no longer concerns what it is, but what will become when we finally know. Because sometimes the loudest signal a civilization can send is silence itself. Like and subscribe for more answers to the universe's greatest questions.